Welcome to Sunshine Cathedral's Queer God Squad. It's Wednesday, August 27th, 2025. I am Bishop Darrell Watkins, the Senior Minister of the Sunshine Cathedral. With me today are Bishop Robert Griffin, Reverend Ann Atwell. We are the Queer God Squad. SunshineCathedral.org you can visit to learn more about us. Queer God Squad was created by Hotspots Happening Out to support our mission to explore the value of faith in the LGBTQ community. There's no streaming TV show like this in the entire world.
In 2025, we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of Hotspots magazine, the 5th anniversary of Queer News Tonight with nearly 10,000 stories and 10 million views in 2024.
We are the largest nonprofit LGBTQ media organization in America, and we encourage you to support our mission to inform, entertain, and educate our community and allies. Like and share this episode and watch us Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. or on demand.
This is the Sunshine Cathedral perspective. Why New Thought spirituality appeals to LGBTQ+ people. The New Thought movement, emerging in the 19th century as a spiritual healing movement, posits that reality is largely shaped by one's attitudes and beliefs.
Rooted in the teachings of Phineas, Quimby, and Emma Curtis Hopkins, it emphasizes the power of optimism and the inherent divinity within each individual. New Thought avoids rigid dogma, instead focusing on the practical application of its principles for personal betterment.
Central to New Thought is the concept of, quote, mind power, end quote, suggesting that physical and emotional well-being as well as material success are influenced by conscious thought and affirmation. Proponents believe that by aligning one's thought with universal spiritual or mental laws, individuals can attract desired outcomes into their lives.
Some have accused New Thought of being overly focused on material prosperity, but a mature and equitable understanding of New Thought isn't about becoming wealthy or getting every wish granted or winning every competition, but rather training one's thoughts and emotions to create mental atmospheres that can make life better wherever improvement is needed or desired. Like any technique, or therapy or business plan, New Thought spirituality helps one find ways to pursue goals without judging oneself or others for how they are achieved or how long it takes them to be reached. It isn't magic, it's a principle put into practice.
This philosophy gained traction through teachers and writers like Ralph Waldo Emerson, Science of Mind author Ernest Holmes, Unity School of Christianity founders Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, and Divine Science founder Melinda Kramer.
Women were early leaders in New Thought, and as spiritual healing practitioners, they found a career at a time when professional opportunities were not abundant for women.
New Thought theology affirms spirit or mind or energy as being the source and substance of all reality, sees sin as error and judgment, atonement not as bridging a gap between humanity and God, but understanding that there can be no gap between humanity and God or spirit or divine mind. And so atonement is really at-one-ment. New Thought teachers who study the Bible tend to interpret it allegorically and symbolically. Jesus in New Thought is considered a master teacher, but not uniquely divine, as all people are part of the universal divine life. Most in New Thought agree that life is endless, but there are many ideas about what that might look like beyond this human experience.
New Thought's affirming, loving, non-condemning, optimistic, and non-dogmatic teachings have become popular with many LGBTQ people. New Thought doesn't condemn LGBTQ+ people, or divorce, or consensual, caring sex expressions, or much of anything that supports one's happiness and well-being that doesn't harm others.
New Thought philosophy influenced the 12-step movement, Norman Vincent Peale's Power of Positive Thinking, and various self-help authors and groups. It shares many ideas in common with A Course in Miracles, The Secret, the writings of Louise Hay, and the metaphysics of Reverend Ike. Its enduring appeal lies in its optimistic message of human potential.
Sunshine Cathedral embraces New Thought philosophy and offers a ministerial training program in the New Thought tradition known as Divine Science. Our senior minister is a life member of the International New Thought Alliance and is the current president of the Divine Science Federation. There are several Divine Science ministers and practitioners in leadership at Sunshine Cathedral.
Well, that's we've never really talked about it this specifically, I think, on this show, but, which is odd because it's so central to our life here at Sunshine Cathedral. In fact, one of the reasons that I'm here is because my predecessor was a New Thought practitioner, follower, teacher, and he was looking for someone in the same vein. And so I've been here 19 years, and he was here for 22. So yeah, we are decades into presenting and embracing and sharing this philosophy. I am a life member of the International New Thought Alliance, which I found out about because of my predecessor. He was a life member and got me involved. And then when I became involved in divine science, I ordained him. He incarnated me into the old Catholic tradition, and then I ordained him into the divine science tradition. So we had all of this this overlap. So this is a long tradition at Sunshine Cathedral. So sort of odd that we haven't made a whole show about it until now. And you know about it. Even if you've never heard of it, you know about it. Because a lot of the principles of New Thought, they are taught in athletics. Because it's about, if you have the right mindset, like a lot of people can be strong or coordinated or know the rules of a game or whatever. So mind is what makes the difference, your attitude and the way you think about things. Same thing with acting, theater, film, modeling, all these have so much competition. So how do you not get defeated in your own head when you get rejection after rejection? How do you stay in the game and believe in yourself and then finally succeed? Well, it's about your thinking, isn't it? Business. In fact, this became in the 30s, 40s, very big for like people who made their living on sales, commission sales, that sort of thing. Well, you'll get discouraged and give up if you have a bad day. You've got to have the right attitude to stay at it. And so these principles are taught in leadership, in athletics, in entertainment. So this has been around for a long time. Phyllis Diller, who I don't think ever said the phrase New Thought in her whole life, used to carry around a book called The Magic of Believing. It was written by a journalist that had discovered in his journalism work this power of thought. And so he wrote a couple of books about it. It's a little tiny book. You can still get it. It's called The Magic of Believing. She would keep it in her purse, and whenever anyone say, for advice about getting into the business, getting into comedy or whatever, well, of course, you're funny or you're not, you practice, you do improv, you work the clubs, blah, 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 same old advice. But she would, in addition to that, hand them a book. She would just keep some in her purse and give, because she said that's what turned her attitude around. She'd had a difficult marriage and gotten into business late herself. But this one little book, The Magic of Believing, Claude Bristol, The Magic of Believing, like so completely turned her attitude around that it made her success possible. So whenever she was coaching people on success, she included giving them just for free out of her own pocket this book, The Magic of Believing. So you know about this stuff. If you are a fan of Oprah, you know about this stuff. If you read any of Wayne Dyer, you know about this stuff. And so it's pretty common, but we put it in our liturgy, we put it in our teaching, we teach classes about it. And now we even have a whole show about it. And it's particularly, I think, appealing to LGBTQ plus people because a lot of what hurts us is what we've been taught to think about ourselves. So if we can change the way we think about ourselves, we'll change how we experience life. We'll change how we experience love. We'll change even how we respond to, or maybe don't even bother to respond to, people's hatefulness and criticism and judgment and bullying or whatever. So if you can change your attitude, you change your experience of things. And I think that's very popular with gay people because we need to change how we experience other people's prejudice. We need to change how we experience our own self-judgment. I think this was particularly helpful during the early days of the AIDS crisis when we had nothing, we had no hope, we had no medicine. So this idea that I can make the most of this time, that I can have a better day today than I might otherwise have, that I might live another day longer than I would otherwise, that this attitude, I honestly believed it contributed to my survival. Not that it's a guarantee, not that, if somebody didn't make it, it's because they weren't good enough or didn't think good enough thoughts or whatever, but it's a tool, it's an option. And I think it did help a lot of people, especially when there's no other help. And for all I know, that sort of attitude is what helps scientists and researchers find things that are keeping people alive today. So yeah, this idea that faith should impact your attitude in a positive way. And if that happens, that can influence your life in more positive directions. That is not only just sort of a philosophy or a tool for better success or whatever. For us, it is actually part of our spirituality and part of how we worship and part of how we minister to people.
I think for those folks who have been tormented maybe by traditional Christianity, evangelical Christianity. Something like New Thought can really be life-saving. It can really be powerful. I remember being influenced by Norman Vincent Peale's Power of Positive Thinking. I mean, that had such an impact on my life that if you change your thoughts, you know, you can change how things are happening to you and how you respond to them as well. So I have such high regard for New Thought, and I love that it's integrated as part of our spirituality and part of our worship here at Sunshine Cathedral.
Which is how it was meant to be. Like we now have New Thought churches now, like divine science and religious science and unity and homes of truth and all these things. But in the beginning, none of these teachers wanted to start their own movements.
Right.
They just wanted to add this philosophy to their churches. And but churches, of course, are so steeped in dogma and tradition that they wound up sort of having to make their own thing after all. But it was always meant to be, you could be a New Thought Methodist, you could be a New Thought Episcopalian, and that was always what was intended. And so I think we're following the founders' intentions almost to the letter.
You know, I think a lot of us has probably been more New Thought than what we probably even knew in the very beginning. You know, I was just thinking back, you know, as a kid reading the Beatitudes, you know, it was about being, you know, blessed are they. And you passed on those wonderful affirmations, those Beatitudes, and a lot of other scriptures that we find in the Bible. And so
I think the Beatitudes.
Yeah. A lot of us have been more New Thought than when we knew until we later in life learned the language that went along with that. And I think, you know, one of the big, I'm going to say gurus for me when I met her was Louise Hay back in California and when I lived in San Diego. And, you know, up until that point, I really didn't have the language, the nuance. I just knew I was having a daily experience of wanting things to be better, not only for myself, but for people around me. I wanted people to be healthy because I just gotten diagnosed with being HIV. So it was all about this health conscious. And I just remember at that point in time in the world, there really was this conscious shift in America. At the onset of HIV, as devastating as it was, but there was this conscious rising around wholeness and healedness. And I think it was really like we have the power to heal ourselves. You know, and she herself had many healings of her own. And so that kind of began to stick with me as I grew older and older. And then I became more appreciative of people who were influenced by New Thought, like Robert Schuller. You know, I remember his book, Tough Times Never Last, but Tough People Do. So it's like when you read it through the lens of New Thought or applying the affirmations that goes with it, you really kind of see from Sunday school to Louise Hay, to Robert Schuller, to many others, New Thought has been a part of probably all of us, all of our lives. And now we're getting a better understanding of how the intent of that impacts our lives and also impacts the lives of those who are around us by saying, we wish you good and we wish you well, and all will be well.
Yes.
In the New Testament, the Johannine tradition defines God as spirit and as light and as love. Well, those are ideas that are embraced in New Thought. That God, instead of being and Jesus in the Johannine tradition says God is spirit, and those who worship in spirit and truth. That not a person. Now Jesus does in the Gospels refer to God as Abba, but even that is a shift because in Judaism, parents are very affectionate and they spoil their kids and they make sure their every need is met and they want them to succeed in life, and they're even involved in like how they get married and just everything, the food, the everything. And so Jesus is referring to God instead of like a Greco-Roman parent that could be very strict, they could sell their kids into slavery, they could kill their kids, they could, whatever. Jesus introduces this Jewish parent that is so attentive and so loving and so caring and so present. So it is a presence, a loving presence is what Jesus is offering instead of sort of a dictator or a punisher or whatever. And even in the Lord's Prayer, Abba who art in heaven, in the Aramaic, that phrase actually is throughout the universe. The heavens are just the sky, it's just the cosmos. And so our God who art throughout the universe, it's a universal presence. And so those are New Thought ideas. Instead of an anthropomorphic God, a power, a presence, we're part of it, we can access it, it flows through us. And so these are ancient. There was an Irish Anglican bishop in the 1700s, George Berkeley, and he talked about everything sort of being the manifestation of divine ideas, of God being a substance, the substance of life rather than a person. This is an Anglican bishop a long, long time ago. These ideas aren't new. They have been systematized in the 19th century and then built upon since then, but these ideas are from forever. So there's really very little new about New Thought. other than our newness, our new enthusiasm about talking about it and sharing about it. But there have always been people who talked about God as, well, even Paul Tillich, as the ground of being, not a person, but this ground of being that all reality emerges from. That's a very new thought idea. And if God is what is, if God is all that is, if God is omnipresent, we're all in that presence, we all share the substance, that's what gives us hope. That's what makes everything possible. We can pursue anything because the power of God is in us. When Jesus says the kingdom of God is at hand, in our hands. It's as close as our hands. And so we can try anything. We may or may not succeed, but there's no point in not trying because we've got the whole power of the universe behind us. And so that is not contrary to really any Christian doctrine or the tenets of most religions. This has been overlooked. And New Thought sort of gets us beyond the literalism of language and tradition so that we can experience the presence of divinity and know that we're part of that. And that gives us a new way of looking at things and approaching things. And I think it's helped people survive. I think it's helped people recover from just utter devastation. I think a lot of what we do is because we honestly believe there's not a spot where God is not, which is our New Thought concept. Mm-hmm. And that's today with the Queer God Squad.
Before we go, I want to invite you to like and share this episode on your social media. And I also welcome you to find Sunshine Cathedral on Facebook or Instagram.
You can also like our individual pages on Facebook. Remember to visit sunshinecathedral.org frequently. There you will find Bishop Talk, where Bishop Durrell and I interview queer religious leaders from around the world, activists and scholars. We've also added a weekly lectionary discussion that you can find on the website and on the socials.
Thank you for joining the Queer God Squad today. We are here daily at 3 p.m. to have some fun and to discuss what our LGBTQ community is talking about.
Sunshine Cathedral is the world's leading progressive queer church. Progressive, queer, and God are words that naturally should go together. Remember that we are all in this together. Also remember, you are God's miracle, not God's mistake. Until next time, we are the Queer God Squad. Goodbye.